Cimoooooooo. What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. So today I'm bringing to you a meta-analysis for the January 2020 format. Now, you might be thinking this is a little bit late for a meta-analysis considering February's right around the corner. Thing is, though, it didn't really make sense to bring it to a meta-analysis prior to this because, well, we'd kind of been dealing with the same format up until now. For the past several months, we've been in a format of Sky Striker Orcas, Salamangreat Thunder Dragon, you know, everything that we've been talking about, and apart from a few minor changes, things have been remaining relatively constant. We also knew there was a ban list coming, so it doesn't really make sense to have a meta-analysis when we know the whole format's gonna warp once that ban list hits, and boy did it change a lot. And now we just had the first big event of the new format conclude, and now I figured it makes perfect sense to use this meta-analysis as a baseline moving forward. So whether you're attending regionals, the UDS in Tulsa, YCS Las Vegas for the 3v3, or even the UDS in Bogota, hopefully you guys are going to use this information to best equip yourselves for these events. Now, before we get into it, I do want to let you guys know there's only 1 week remaining to get your foil max rarity shirts. Whether it's a shirt, a hoodie, whatever, this is a limited print run. Teespring only allows you to do these in very limited quantities, and they're not going to be staying on the merch store for much longer, and it's only going to go till the end of January. So you haven't already made your purchase, definitely be sure to do it now, because I'm not sure when I'll be able to ever bring these back, and honestly, these look really, really nice. So links are in the description if you want to purchase your shirt or any of the other merch that is in my store, and I thank you guys for all of your continued support. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. So this past weekend was the Pro Play Tour Invitational taking place in Orlando, Florida. This was a $10,000 prize pool event, and oh man, was it a lot of fun. We peaked at around 4,000 viewers at the highest point during the stream, and we were consistently sitting at like 2,000 to 2,500 of you guys. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. It was a lot of fun. So here's our top 16 breakdown of that event. I want to preface this by saying that this was a smaller event, about 124 players. Thing is though, this was an invitational, so you had to either earn your invite at previous Pro Play Tour events by making the top cut, or you also could have competed in our last chance qualifiers that took place the day before. So kind of similar to the North American World Championship qualifier, or any of the World Championship qualifiers for that matter. Now, the thing is, there were plenty of big names in attendance here. There was Aaron Furman, we had Cody Angelov, we had Walter Jewell, Brian Reyes, so we had, you know, huge big winners, we had UDS champions, we had Worlds competitors, tons of big names showed up because they were itching to win that $10,000 prize pool, and this is what the meta ended up shaping like. I think if you looked at the overall breakdown of all the competitors, I think it was something to the effect of like 33 SPYRAL, 19 Altergeist, 18 Orcas variants for that matter, so it's interesting to see that there wasn't a conversion there. However, there were about like 12% of the field playing Orcas. So Orcas is still out there, the jury's out as to whether or not that's still correct, but nonetheless, people were still playing the deck. But SPYRAL is taking up about 25% of the overall representation, and when you look at this, it converted to about over 50% when it's taking up 9 of the top 16 slots, and that is pretty remarkable considering last format SPYRAL was considered like a rogue deck. Now, what's interesting about SPYRAL is that there's actually 3 different variants of SPYRAL that are going around. There is the pure SPYRAL list, which is, when we say pure SPYRAL, all of these are incorporating Magician Souls, right? Magician Souls is kind of like the card that allowed SPYRAL to become this tier 1 contender again. And the thing is, when it comes to SPYRAL, you know, pure SPYRAL specifically, there aren't really any frills. It's kind of like if you took like an older, more traditional SPYRAL list and kind of just threw 3 Magician Souls in it, you're going to notice a lot of similarities. However, the other 2 variants, there is a Danger SPYRAL list, which is something that we've kind of seen rather often, at least as of most recent times, simply due to the fact that this is how the deck was able to compete in the most recent formats. Again, as a rogue contender, but nonetheless was still able to make some pretty formidable boards. But the third variant of SPYRAL, and this is the most interesting, was Extravagant Spiral. Yes, you heard me right. People playing Pot of Extravagance in SPYRAL. Now, the theory behind this is, I mean, it really only conflicts with a couple cards. It does conflict with your Magician Souls effect to be able to discard the cards in your hand, most likely, you know, your SPYRAL Mission Rescue, different things like that. But the added value of just playing Pot of Extravagance just allows you to get more combo pieces and get you closer to your Magician Souls, because yes, while not being able to discard cards for Souls is a big deal, you're just looking to get to Souls to dump your master plan, and that pretty much usually sets everything in motion anyway, and you usually have plenty of other methods to be able to keep playing. I mean, you're able to do stuff like use barricade board blocker to get the rescues out of your hand, to resurrect the master plan, to essentially do your full spiral combo. So you do have to play a crazy extra deck for this, because you have to play like 3 Appaloosa, you most likely have to play like 3 double helix, although some players were playing 2. You have to double or even triple up on a lot of the key important pieces when it comes to spiral. But it's just a really crazy build. I'll go ahead and have Aaron Furman's list up here for you guys to see. He was on the Extravagance build. He was also playing a Dark Magic Veil, as a matter of fact, as another way just to get to Master Plan and ensure that he's able to make sure that all of his key combos go off. So that was pretty cool. That was a bit of a spicy tech on his end. Some other players weren't playing it, but it's still a card you could choose to incorporate. Going back to Pure Spiral though, here is Michael State's second place list that, and again, we're calling this Pure Spiral, but it is still definitely different. You're also noticing cards like Where Art Thou, just to help you get into your quick fix, because Magician Souls happens to be a level 1, so it's really easy to just have like 4 copies of quick fix essentially in your deck. So just having all these different cards, essentially there's so many different combinations with cards like Magician Souls, or even, you know, 3-card combos that can essentially result in the God board, quote unquote, that typically ends on Spiral Sleeper with a Last Resort equipped to it, so you're able to pop 2 cards. Then you also have an Appaloosa with several negations. You have Tri-Gate Wizard that can negate stuff that isn't a monster effect, Nightmare Phoenix to protect all your stuff by battle, and then if you, on the right side, you either have a Spiral Double Helix, which is fine, but if you have 1 extra extender, you can turn that into a Nightmare Cerberus to protect your cards from being destroyed. So, seems pretty good, and this is probably going to be the deck to beat going into this format. The thing is, everyone was main decking 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird at this event. Well, I don't want to say everyone, but pretty much everyone who wasn't playing a combo deck like Spiral had 3 copies of Droll in their main deck, just simply as a hedge against Spiral, because there was a lot of hype going into this event for Spiral, so people now are going to be looking for every way imaginable to possibly counter this deck. Now, the second most represented deck was Altergeist, taking up 2 of the top 16 slots, but funny enough, Altergeist managed to win the event. Pack, the winner, actually 2-0'd almost every Spiral player he played throughout the event, I think for the exception of 1 playing this very Altergeist list. And a lot of people had faith in Altergeist after the January 2020 ban list, simply due to the fact that it didn't incur any hits, and all the other decks suffered such major hits, and one of its worst matchups being something like True Draco, for instance, also suffered some hits as well. So people were thinking Geist was going to be one of the strongest decks of the format, myself included, and it did have the second highest representation, basically tied with Orcas. There was only 1 more player playing Geist over Orcas, but nonetheless, taking up about an 1/8 of the field overall, Geist is actually looking very strong. You might think that, oh, how does Geist beat Spiral because like Sleeper is a card? You know what? Sometimes Sleeper isn't enough against Geist, because if Geist can get established enough and just have everything where Geist is just doing the thing that it wants to do, control the board, dwindle the opponent out of resources, it's very difficult to stop that snowball from churning, and honestly, this is probably looking like a pretty solid pick moving forward. So if you're trying to deck build against Spiral as your #1 priority, Altergeist should probably be your second pick. And then we had a bunch of one-of decks that managed to make it in the top 16 as well, the first of which was Salamangreat. Now, a lot of people were writing Salamangreat off because of the banning of Mirage Stalio, but Mirage Stalio wasn't like the end-all be-all when it came to Salamangreat. You still have a lot of the deck's recursion and just a lot of the good things that Salamangreat can do, and honestly, because you have that recursion, it can sometimes be very difficult to really put Salamangreat out of commission. Mirage Stalio, while it was a very strong card, it wasn't necessarily like the key card that was holding the deck together, and obviously Joe Bogley was able to take it to the top 16. I've got that list for you guys to see right here as well, and the jury's still out on whether or not this deck is going to be viable, but I think it's still a at least decent candidate at the very least. We also had Blair Hunter's Cyber Dragon Orcas list. Now, this is the only Orcas that made it into the top 16. I'm not even sure if we consider this as technically Orcas. It's more of Cyber Dragon with like a small Orcas package incorporated, but it's really cool when you have your standard Orcas combo of Masquerena plus Babel with Dingirsu in the graveyard, and you also have it backed up by Cybernetic Overflow that's able to pop several cards. You also have Infinity setups. You also have the ability to have a pretty decent shot at cracking the Spiral board, because any Cyber Dragon card on the field can contact fuse away the Appaloosa that's in the extra monster zone immediately, which also breaks the Tri-Gate Wizard from being able to negate a card. So then you really just have to deal with the Spiral Sleeper, and that's pretty nice. That can actually be dispatched of rather easily with a card like Dingirsu, because Dingirsu doesn't target, or it doesn't destroy, he sends, so if you're able to bait the sleeper, somehow get to Dingirsu, that can actually break apart the board pretty easily. So congrats to Blair, maybe we'll see more of this deck in the future, but it was pretty cool to see it on stream nonetheless. Another deck we had was Steven Bronder's Going Second Dinosaur list. Now, Steven Bronder won the Pro Play Tour Dallas event back in November playing Orcas, and as much as he loves his dark monsters, he decided to deviate towards Dinosaur, and honestly, it worked out for him because he did manage to make it to top 16. He was just savaging players all day, left and right. I think he almost played almost all Spiral throughout Swiss, and the thing is, Dino actually has a lot of really good things going for it. Ultimate Conductor Tyranno can actually very easily dispatch almost an entire Spiral board because you can flip the sleeper face down because that effect does not target or destroy either, and then you're able to just attack over everything after you do bait out one or two of their cards. But Steven was playing plenty of cards to do that because he was playing a Going Second variant, and Dinosaur is very proficient at just absolutely dominating when it goes second. So this might be a new contender as well. Definitely will take some more experimentation, but I'm excited to see where this goes. There was also Noah Bagelman's Danger Lunalight list, and this is really cool. A lot of people were thinking Danger Lunalight was going to incorporate the Rank Up Magic launch to go and upgrade into stuff like Kali Yuga, but he took a much different approach. He actually just used the fact that the Danger Lunalight cards are very good at just generating advantage. You're able to make several rank 4s and able to end on a very, very impressive board of stuff like Lambda with Masquerena and like a rank 4, and then like Time Thief Redoer that can trigger the Lambda to get a Gamma to your hand. The board it ends on is actually very impressive, and then again, going second, you're able to actually just continuously just churn through your opponent's resources because the Lunalight and the Danger cards are just very good at generating advantage and kind of just taking care and dispatching of these cards rather easily. So this is a deck that I think a lot of people wrote off because As a Thought got banned, but frankly, I think this is a low-key contender that a lot of people should start messing around with because I think it has a lot of potential. And last but not least, oh boy, we have Stephen Logan's 18 Hand Trap Goki list. This is no ordinary Goki list, but man, is this deck sweet. Now, one of the reasons why this deck is cool is because he incorporated a card, Goki the Giant Ogre, which, funny enough, is very difficult, as a matter of fact, for Spiral to out. I believe they have very few, if not zero, outs in the main deck to be able to dispatch of a card like this, and that's pretty good if you're going up against all Spiral throughout the event, and that's almost exactly what happened. Steven played several Spiral throughout the event, and he said it was pretty easy, but obviously he did not make it much further past top 16. It's a bit unfortunate. A lot of people were rooting for him, but I did really like the strategy. I got to talk to him on Friday about it, and it was really cool to see him go so far. Now, I'm not sure if this is something that was kind of just a one-off, but if Spiral continues to excel and dominate, you know, over 50% of the metagame, this could be an interesting tactic. Again, Spiral could just start to incorporate cards in the extra deck to kind of deal with this, but nonetheless, it was a pretty cool flash in the pan for the Pro Play Tour Invitational. Now, just because these were the top decks from the Pro Play Tour Invitational doesn't mean all other decks are irrelevant. I definitely think Guru Control still have tons of potential. The thing is, at the Invitational, there's only like 3 or 4 people that are actually running Guru Control, so the likelihood of one converting into Top Cut was very low. But Guru Control has a lot of the same advantages that Altergeist does, and it's also boasting one of the highest win rates for the amount of wins that it has currently on Dueling Book, so that's not a deck to write off either. There's still people playing decks like Sky Striker. One of the best Sky Striker players out there, Pascal Kim, winner of YCS London, was absolutely dominating with this deck on the online ladders. Again, we don't know how powerful this deck is, but Sky Striker somehow has still managed to stay alive, even though it's in smaller numbers, and a lot of people still don't know if this deck is correct, given the current climate of the format. There's still other decks running around like Gren Maju and Infernoid that are able to go second in OTK through so many different decks. I think what's so cool about this moment in time is that because there's still so many unknowns, people are starting to experiment, try new things out, and I think that's when Yu-Gi-Oh! Is at its best. It's so fun to see what crazy stuff people come up with, and it's only going to become more and more solidified as time moves on, but if there's ever a chance to experiment, this is definitely the time. So guys, that's going to wrap up this meta-analysis. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always. Subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh! Content, and if you found this video informative, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member. Because just by showing your support in any way that you can, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh! Content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.